I was at swim practice when the tornado warning came over the pool's ancient PIA system, and every other team was already scrambling out. But Coach Blackwood just stood at the base of the ladder and said, "Nobody moves. We have sectionals in 3 days." When I pointed out the sky was turning this weird greenish-black and everyone else was following protocol, she screamed, "Do you know what my ex-husband's daughter told me at dinner last week? Her Washington team calls us the poverty pool. Do you want to prove them right by quitting?" I was at swim practice when the tornado warning came over the pool's ancient PA system. Tornado warning. All outdoor activities are suspended immediately. Seek shelter now. Every other team was already scrambling out, but Coach Blackwood just stood at the base of the ladder like she owned the place. "Nobody moves. We have sectionals in 3 days." I treaded water, looking up at her. "Coach Blackwood, everyone else is getting out. Shouldn't we follow protocol?" The vein in her forehead looked like it was about to pop. "The team over at Washington High are probably practicing right now while you babies whine about rain. You think they got to state by being soft? Washington High had beaten us last year by 2 points. Blackwood hadn't shut up about it since. Back in the water. 20x100 on the 130. The sky was turning this weird greenish-black, like a bruise, but we swam. 3 minutes later, the wind wasn't just wind anymore. It was this unnatural howling that made the chain link fence bend and rattle. The air pressure dropped so fast my ears popped. "Coach, I can see rotation in those clouds. That's a wall cloud forming. Keep swimming or do push-ups on deck. Your choice." Mariana, our team captain, tried next. "Coach, my mom's a lawyer. She says pools have to evacuate immediately during tornado warnings. It's state law." That's when Blackwood lost it. "Do you know what my ex-husband's daughter told me at dinner last week? Her Washington team calls us the poverty pool. Do you want to prove them right by quitting?" We all just floated there for a second, processing that our coach was risking our lives over some teenage gossip. That's when the janitor came running out, waving his arms. "Everyone inside!" Rotation spotted 2 miles away. "Get out of here, Carl. We're training." I watched Carl look at us, then at Blackwood, then just shake his head and leave. Part of me couldn't even blame him, or the other staff who turned a blind eye, because everyone knew the principal would take Blackwood's side, no matter what. She was one of the best coaches in the state, and they cared more about keeping their jobs and their children fed than some students in a pool. We were on our own. The wind gusts were so violent now that pool water was being blown out in sheets, drenching the deck. Leaves and debris were swirling around us like we were inside a blender. Kayla, this tiny freshman, had tears streaming down her face. "Please, my ears hurt so bad. The pressure is making me dizzy." That's called working hard. Washington doesn't take breaks, but Kayla was right. My ears were killing me too. The pressure changes made it feel like we were on an airplane dropping altitude way too fast. Rose threw up, just turned to the gutter and hurled. The roaring sound wasn't thunder anymore. It was that freight train sound everyone talks about, getting louder, closer. "This is insane!" someone yelled. "The only thing insane is your attitude," Blackwood screamed back. That's when the equipment shed exploded. The metal roof went spinning into the air like a frisbee. The emergency exit lights all flashed on even though the power was still working. I looked at my little sister. Layla was in lane 2, lips purple, whole body shaking. Not from cold, from fear. I was done. I swam straight to the ladder. Didn't ask, didn't hesitate, just grabbed the rails and started climbing. Blackwood moved to block me. "Touch that ladder and you're off the team. No sectionals, no scholarship. Your future ends right here." Then I'm off the team. I pushed past her and she grabbed my hair. "Get back in the pool, young lady." I yanked it free and scrambled onto the deck. "Nobody's coming to save us. Get out now," I screamed. That did it. 23 teenagers rushing for the ladder at once. Rose slipped on the deck. I grabbed her arm, hauled her up. Blackwood was screaming about weakness and Washington and how we were all quitters. We ran for the basement just as the tornado touched down in the parking lot. Cars were flipping like toys. The principal found Blackwood 40 minutes later in the pool equipment room where flying debris had blown her. She had a gash on her forehead and was still muttering about commitment through chattering teeth. Turns out Blackwood had told the office we'd taken shelter as soon as the warning hit, and every parent got an automated message saying their kids were safe inside the building. The fire department said if we'd stayed in that exposed pool area, we'd have been sucked right up. And somehow that wasn't even the craziest part, because as the weeks passed and they looked into Coach Blackwood, they found out she not only had a restraining order from Washington High, but she also had multiple streams of income, and we were one of them. The financial crimes part made everything make sense in this twisted way. All those fundraisers that never seemed to buy new equipment. The way she'd complain about budget cuts while wearing designer workout gear. How she'd push certain kids harder. The ones whose parents paid extra for elite training. For 8 days after the tornado, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that greenish-black sky. Every time it rained, even just a drizzle, my heart would race. Layla was worse. She'd wake up gasping, convinced she was still in that pool with the wind howling around us. School felt different too. People looked at us swimmers like we were survivors of something, which I guess we were. Some kids wanted to know every detail. Others avoided us completely, like our trauma might be contagious. The pool was still closed, yellow tape everywhere, the equipment shed just a concrete foundation where it used to stand. I was halfway through a chemistry equation when the classroom door opened. 2 people in dark suits stood there, badges visible on their belts. My teacher, Mr. Hendricks, went pale. "We need to speak with one of your students," the woman said. Her voice was professional, but not unkind. Privately. Every head in the room turned to look at me. My stomach felt like it dropped through the floor. "This is about Coach Blackwood," the woman continued, looking directly at me. "We're with the FBI, Financial Crimes Division." I gathered my stuff with shaking hands while 28 pairs of eyes watched. The walk to the conference room felt endless, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. The agents introduced themselves. Agent Quint, the woman who'd spoken, and Agent Martinez, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "We've been investigating your coach for several weeks," Agent Quint said, pulling out a laptop. "What happened during the tornado brought everything to light, but the financial irregularities go back years." She turned the screen toward me. Bank statements filled the display, highlighted sections everywhere. Deposits from names I recognized, parents from our team. "See this?" She pointed to a $500 payment from Kayla's mom. Training camp fee for a camp that never happened. Another highlight. Equipment purchase that was never made. And another. Private coaching sessions that your teammate says she never received. "We need to talk to everyone who was in that pool," Agent Quint said. "Can you tell us who else was there?" I listed every name I could remember. 23 kids who almost died because winning mattered more than our lives. By lunch, they were pulling kids from classes one by one. I saw Mariana leave history. Tommy got called from gym. When they got to Kayla West, she started shaking before they even said her name. I found out later later what she told them. 2 months before the tornado, during another storm, Blackwood had made all the freshmen keep swimming while lightning flashed overhead. Everyone else got to go inside. Just the 9th graders stayed in the water. Toughening them up, she'd called it. Kayla's hands were trembling so bad she could barely hold the pen to write her statement. That night, our kitchen turned into command central. Mom was on the phone with Kayla's mother, her face getting more shocked with each word. $1,500? Mom kept repeating. For what exactly? I could hear Mrs. West through the phone, voice high and angry. Special training sessions, she said. Extra coaching to help Kayla make varsity. Except Kayla had made varsity without any extra help, and she'd never gotten those sessions anyway. Mom hung up and immediately called Rose's parents, then Tommy's, then 3 more families. Each call revealed another charge, another lie, another way Blackwood had been stealing from us. My phone started buzzing at 6 the next morning and didn't stop. The group chat was exploding with screenshots of bank statements, receipts, credit card charges. Rose's dad had paid $3,000 for a recruitment video to send to college scouts. The video didn't exist. Marcus's parents bought special training equipment that never arrived. $2,000 gone. Sarah's mom paid for a swim camp in Wisconsin that got canceled due to weather, but was never refunded. Every text revealed another scam, another theft, another family realizing they'd been played. I was walking past the main office when I heard Principal Porter's voice, louder than usual. You can't just come in here and rifle through confidential files, he was saying. Agent Quint's response was calm. Actually, we can. Federal warrant. Would you like to see it again? Through the doorway, I could see Porter's face turning red. The same man who'd watched us run for our lives was now trying to protect the system that nearly killed us. This is a witch hunt, Porter said. Coach Blackwood is an excellent educator who's won multiple state championships. She's also on security footage forcing children to swim during a tornado, Agent Quint replied. And we have evidence she was stealing from their parents. Your cooperation isn't optional, Principal Porter. I wonder what's really going through Principal Porter's mind right now, defending Blackwood even after she almost got kids killed. There's something strange about how he's more worried about files than students' lives. She had another agent with her, already loading boxes of files onto a cart. Porter just stood there, fists clenched, watching his cover-up crumble. The emergency parent meeting that night was supposed to start at 7. By 6:30, the auditorium was already packed, voices echoing off the walls. Angry voices, confused voices, some defensive ones too. How did nobody notice? Someone shouted before the meeting even officially started. Where was the oversight? Another parent demanded. But then Tommy's dad stood up, his voice booming over everyone else's. This is ridiculous. Coach Blackwood made our kids tough, made them winners. Now you want to crucify her because she pushed them hard? She pushed them into a tornado, Mrs. West shot back. That's an exaggeration and you know it, Tommy's dad said. These kids are being dramatic. My son says the danger is being blown out of proportion. Half the room erupted in agreement, the other half in outrage. Parents who'd found fraudulent charges screaming at parents who still defended Blackwood. The school board members sat at their table looking like they wanted to disappear. We'd been practicing at the rec center for 3 days when the news vans showed up. Our pool was still wrapped in yellow tape, so the rec center's ancient 4-lane pool was all we had. The reporters waited until we got out of the water, microphones ready, cameras rolling. Most of us tried to duck past them, but Mariana stopped right in front of the biggest camera. You want to know what happened? She said, water still dripping from her hair. Coach Blackwood cared more about beating Washington High than keeping us alive. She watched debris flying past and told us to keep swimming. She heard the tornado sirens and called us weak for wanting to get out. Her voice was steady, clear, nothing like the girl who'd tried quoting law to Blackwood that day. This was someone who'd decided the truth mattered more than being polite about it. Agent Quint called me that afternoon with information that made everything else look small. We found something bigger, she said. Blackwood was billing the school district for equipment purchases, then billing parents for the exact same items, double dipping on everything. She explained how it worked. The district would approve funds for new kickboards, and Blackwood would submit the invoice. Then she'd tell parents the district didn't cover everything and collect money for the same kickboards. Both payments went into accounts she controlled. How much? I asked. Over 6 years? We're looking at close to $200,000. The next day, Tommy's dad was waiting by my car after school. Not Tommy, just his dad, arms crossed, face twisted with anger. You're ruining a good woman's life, he said as I approached. Coach Blackwood made something of you kids, gave you discipline, structure, and this is how you repay her? She almost got us killed, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Drama, pure drama. You kids are soft, just like she always said. Can't handle a little rough weather. My dad appeared from nowhere, stepping between us. Back away from my daughter. Now. Tommy's dad held his stare for a moment before walking away, muttering about ungrateful brats and ruined futures. We found out about Coach Stevens' call from Agent Quint 2 days later. The Washington High swim coach had seen the news coverage and contacted the FBI with his own story. Blackwood had been banned from Washington's pool the previous year, not just asked to leave, formally banned with security photos posted at all entrances. She'd shown up at their practices, screaming at their swimmers during warm-ups, calling them cheaters. She'd tried filming their workouts through the fence, claiming they were using illegal training techniques. The restraining order came after she confronted their team captain in a parking lot, accusing her of spreading lies about our program. The girl was 16. Blackwood was screaming in her face until other parents intervened. Mariana's basement smelled like chlorine and pizza when 15 of us gathered there Friday night. Rose was too sick to come. The stress had landed her in urgent care with chest pains. 3 kids had already quit the team, their parents pulling them out completely. We need to decide what we're doing, Mariana said, together, as a team. My dad wants me to stop talking to the FBI, Tommy said quietly. He says we're being ungrateful, that Blackwood made us better swimmers. She nearly killed us, Kayla said, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. That's not coaching, that's abuse. We went around the circle, each person sharing what their parents thought, what they feared would happen if we kept talking, or if we stayed quiet. When it came to a vote, all 15 hands went up. We would tell the truth, all of it, no matter what happened next. That same night, Layla's screaming woke the whole house. I found her tangled in her sheets, sobbing about drowning in wind. I can't breathe, she kept saying. The air is too heavy, it's pulling me up. Mom held her while she shook, whispering that she was safe, she was home, the tornado was gone. But Layla's eyes stayed wide and terrified, seeing things that weren't there anymore but felt real anyway. Why didn't the adults protect us? She asked between sobs. Why didn't anyone make her stop? Mom looked at me over Layla's head, and I saw my own anger reflected in her eyes, because that was the real question, wasn't it? Where were the adults who should have stepped in? 2 weeks after the tornado, we started giving official statements at the courthouse. They brought us in one at a time. A court reporter typing every word, video cameras recording everything. Blackwood's lawyer sat across from me. This man in an expensive suit who looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. He had a legal pad full of notes, prepared to pick apart everything I said. I described the green-black sky, the way the air pressure made our ears pop, the sound of the equipment shed exploding. I talked about Rose throwing up, Kayla crying, my little sister's purple lips, every detail I could remember about those 20 minutes when we thought we might die. The lawyer took notes but didn't interrupt. Not yet. He was saving his attacks for later. The letters arrived 3 days later, delivered by certified mail to every swimmer who'd given a statement. Formal legal letterhead, lots of complicated language, but the message was simple. Shut up or we'll sue you. Blackwood's lawyer claimed we were lying about the tornado's danger, said we were exaggerating for revenge because she'd been a demanding coach. He threatened defamation lawsuits against us and our parents if we continued spreading false narratives. Mom read the letter 3 times, her jaw getting tighter with each pass. She's trying to scare children into silence, she said. After everything she did, she's still trying to bully you. The threat letters had the opposite effect of what Blackwood wanted. Kids who'd been too scared to speak up suddenly wanted to testify. The 3 who'd quit the team came back, saying they wouldn't let her intimidate them anymore. Marcus, who'd barely said 10 words about that day, called Agent Quint and gave a 2-hour statement. Sarah, whose parents had wanted her to stay quiet, convinced them that silence was what Blackwood was counting on. Even kids who hadn't been in the pool that day started coming forward with their own stories about Blackwood's behavior. Once the news went national, swimmers from Blackwood's past started reaching out. 2 kids from Indiana, where she'd coached before coming to our school, sent their stories to the FBI. Same patterns everywhere she'd been. Dangerous practices in bad weather, money disappearing from team accounts, an obsession with beating specific rival teams that bordered on deranged. One girl described swimming with a concussion for 3 days because Blackwood said she was faking. Another talked about mandatory weigh-ins where Blackwood would announce everyone's weight to the whole team, commenting on who needed to stop eating like a pig. The school board tried to hold a quiet meeting to address concerns, but 300 people showed up. The tiny conference room couldn't hold half of them, so they had to move to the gymnasium. Parents took turns at the microphone, voices shaking with rage. They described medical bills for therapy their kids needed, physical therapy for shoulders destroyed by Blackwood's excessive training, prescriptions for anxiety medication for kids who used to love swimming. My daughter hasn't slept through the night since the tornado, one mother said. She wakes up gasping, thinking she's drowning in wind. My son spent 3 days in the hospital with pneumonia after she made him swim outdoors in February, another parent added. She called him weak for getting sick. One mother stood up holding her daughter's journal, hands trembling as she read. March 15th, coach says I'll never make college teams if I don't lose 10 pounds. I'm already underweight according to my doctor, but she says doctors don't understand athletes. She flipped pages. April 2nd, I want to quit, but coach told me she'll call every college scout she knows and tell them I'm a quitter. She has connections everywhere. A father showed photos of his son's frostbite from a January practice Blackwood had called character building. The pool heater had been broken, ice forming on the deck, but she'd made them swim anyway. Each story built on the last, creating a picture of systematic abuse that had been happening for years while everyone looked the other way. 20 days after the tornado, the district attorney held a press conference. Standing behind a podium with a stack of files, she listed the charges in a steady voice. 32 counts of theft by deception. Porter's standing there watching his whole world fall apart like a house of cards in a hurricane. Pretty fitting given what started this mess. 18 counts of wire fraud. 23 counts of endangering the welfare of children. Each count could mean years in prison. Together they could mean Blackwood would never see freedom again. We're also investigating potential charges against school administrators who knew about the danger and failed to act, she added, looking directly at the camera. The arrest warrant was issued that afternoon. We watched it live on the news that evening. 3 police cars pulling up to Blackwood's house. Officers walking up her driveway. The knock on her door that everyone could hear through the news microphones. She came out yelling, of course. Even being arrested, she couldn't stop. Soft kids, she screamed as they cuffed her. This is what's wrong with this generation. No commitment, no dedication. As they guided her toward the police car, she turned to the cameras. Washington High is laughing at you, she shouted. They're laughing at how weak you all are. Even facing decades in prison, she was still obsessed with that rivalry. Still convinced that winning mattered more than our lives. They put her in the car and drove away, but you could see her still yelling through the back window, her mouth moving with words we couldn't hear anymore. The next morning, Principal Porter called me and Mariana to his office, not to apologize or check how we were doing, to suspend us. You've caused significant disruption to the educational environment, he said, not meeting our eyes. You should have come to me with your concerns instead of involving outside authorities. We almost died, Mariana said, her voice flat. That's an exaggeration that's damaging this school's reputation. 2-day suspension, effective immediately. I couldn't even respond. The man who'd typed all safe while we were still in danger was punishing us for surviving. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My swimming scholarship was probably gone. Half the town thought we were traitors. Now I was suspended for telling the truth. Maybe we'd made everything worse by speaking up. Maybe we should have just stayed quiet and moved on. But then I thought about the next kid who might end up in a pool during a tornado. The next teenager told to swim through lightning. The next freshman crying from fear while adults called them weak. If we stayed quiet, it would happen again. Maybe not here, maybe not with swimming, but somewhere. Some kid would be in danger because the adults cared more about winning than safety. The next morning, Mariana had already organized everything. When first period started, 300 students walked out of class. They marched to the main office chanting, "Safety over scores," and demanding Porter resign. Teachers watched from doorways, some looking angry, others nodding in support. Carl, the janitor, found me that afternoon. He pulled a small memory card from his pocket, looking around nervously before handing it to me. I've been holding on to this, he said quietly. Security footage from that day. The whole thing, including audio from the hallway cameras. Why didn't you turn it in before? He looked ashamed. I have 3 kids. I need this job, but watching you kids fight when the adults won't. I can't keep it anymore. The footage was damning. Crystal clear video of Porter standing at his office window, watching the tornado approach. You could see him typing on his computer, timestamp showing it was the exact moment parents got the all-safe message. Audio of him telling Carl to let coach handle it when Carl tried to get help. The FBI had the footage within an hour. By evening, Porter was on administrative leave pending investigation investigation. The investigation expanded quickly. Emails surfaced between Porter and the athletic director discussing Blackwood's aggressive but effective methods. One from 2 days after the lightning incident said simply, "She wins. That's what matters." Then Rose ended up in the hospital. Full-blown panic attack that sent her heart rate through the roof. Her mom called me from the emergency room crying. "She keeps saying she's drowning in wind," her mom sobbed. "She can't breathe. They had to sedate her." The team gathered in the hospital waiting room without anyone organizing it. We just showed up, 15 teenagers in chlorine-scented hoodies, sitting in uncomfortable plastic chairs. "Maybe we should stop," someone said quietly. "Look what this is doing to us." To Rose. "Rose would want us to keep going," Mariana said, but even she sounded uncertain. That's when the nurse brought out Rose's phone. She'd typed a message for us while the doctors were running tests. "Don't stop fighting. What she did was wrong. I'm sick because of what happened to us, not because we're speaking up about it. Keep going. For the next kids." We sat there passing the phone around, each of us reading her words. When it got back to me, I stood up. "We're going fully public," I said. "No more closed-door meetings. No more letting them control the narrative. We tell everyone exactly what happened." Within a week, the story was everywhere. Former swimmers from years past started reaching out with their own stories. A girl who graduated 3 years ago described swimming with a concussion because Blackwood said she was faking. Another talked about developing an eating disorder from public weigh-ins where Blackwood would announce everyone's weight to the whole team. The video of me describing the tornado went viral. 3 million views in 2 days. Comments from swimmers all over the country sharing similar stories about coaches who cared more about winning than safety. A month after the tornado, the grand jury convened. 23 swimmers, 12 parents, and 8 school employees were scheduled to testify. I went first, my voice shaking as I described the green-black sky, the howling wind, Blackwood screaming about Washington High while debris flew past us. They played the security footage Carl had provided. You could hear everything. Blackwood yelling, "Get back in the pool," while the tornado siren wailed, Kayla crying, Rose throwing up, me screaming that nobody was coming to save us. Kayla testified next, braver than I'd ever seen her. She described thinking she was going to die at 14, how her ears felt like they would burst from the pressure changes, how she still panicked during storms. Porter broke down during his testimony, admitted he knew Blackwood was dangerous, but the school board pressured him to keep winning coaches. He chose championships over student safety. The grand jury indicted Blackwood on all counts. Porter, the athletic director, and 2 school board members were also charged with conspiracy and endangerment. At the next school board meeting, the gymnasium was packed. Parents demanded answers. Students lined up to describe years of ignored complaints. When my turn came, I spoke without notes, looking directly at the adults who'd failed us. "You taught us to trust you," I said. "You told us you'd keep us safe. But when it mattered, you chose trophies over our lives. We had to save ourselves because every adult who should have protected us chose winning instead." When I finished, the entire room stood up applauding. Parents, students, even some teachers who finally felt safe to support us. Layla ran up and hugged me, and for the first time since the tornado, I knew we'd done the right thing. The district announced new safety protocols the next day. No outdoor practice during weather warnings. Anonymous reporting systems for coach abuse. Independent oversight of all sports programs. They called it the Student Safety Initiative, but everyone knew what it really was. The rules that should have existed all along. 6 weeks after the tornado, Blackwood's lawyer tried to get her just probation. The judge shut him down immediately. "Anyone who risks children's lives for a swim meet needs real consequences," she said. 2 months after the tornado, we got a new coach. Ms. Bernard gathered us at the rec center pool. Only 12 of us left from the original team. "I know what happened to you," she said. "I know you have no reason to trust another coach, so here's my promise. Your safety comes first, always. Your health comes second. Winning comes third. And if you ever feel unsafe, you don't need my permission to get out of the pool. You just get out." Half the team started crying at those words. Layla, who hadn't been in the water since the tornado, stepped forward. "Can I try?" she asked, voice small but determined. Ms. Bernard moved aside. Layla walked to the ladder, then stopped, whole body shaking. I took her hand. Together, she nodded, squeezing my fingers hard. We went down the ladder one step at a time. The water was warm, nothing like that day. When Layla put her face in the water for the first time in 2 months, everyone held their breath. She came up gasping, but not from panic, from relief. "I did it," she whispered, then louder. "I did it." Over the following weeks, we slowly became something new. Not the team we'd been, that was gone forever, but something quieter, maybe stronger in different ways. We lost every meet we entered, but we were there because we chose to be. No one screamed at us. No one called us weak. We were slow and small, but we were choosing to be in that water. 3 months after the tornado, the verdict came. We sat in the courtroom's back rows, shoulders touching, waiting. The jury found Blackwood guilty on all counts. 32 counts of theft, 18 counts of fraud, 23 counts of child endangerment. The judge called her actions a complete betrayal of trust and said she'd violated the most basic duty of any educator, protecting the children in her care. At sentencing, Blackwood got 8 years in prison and a lifetime ban from working with minors. She stood up when the judge announced it, still defiant. "These kids are weak," she shouted. "They couldn't handle real training. Porter suspending Mariana and me for disrupting the educational environment seems like such a strange move when he's already under investigation. What's he hoping to accomplish here?" Carl holding on to that security footage for who knows how long makes me wonder how many other people knew something was wrong but stayed quiet because they needed their jobs. They'll never amount to anything because they don't understand commitment. The bailiffs led her out still ranting, still convinced we were the problem. Even facing 8 years in prison, she'd learned nothing. After the trial ended, after the reporters left, after everyone went back to their normal lives, I went to the rec center pool alone. The afternoon sun came through the windows, making patterns on the water. No one else was there, just me and the quiet. I pushed off the wall and floated on my back, arms spread wide, looking up at the regular ceiling. No storm clouds, no sirens, no one screaming about commitment or weakness or Washington High, just water holding me up, gentle and safe. I thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the fight, the way we'd had to save ourselves when every adult failed us, but also the way we'd stood together afterward, the way we'd refused to be silent even when people tried to scare us, the way we'd rebuilt something different, maybe better, from what was left. The water was warm, my breathing was steady, and for the first time in 3 months, I remembered why I used to love this feeling. The weightlessness, the quiet, the simple joy of floating without anyone keeping score. That's my cue to drift off too. Thanks for letting me toss in some clever quips along the way. Catch you on the flip side. Subscribe for more content like this.